Hello, I'm Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. We're here in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainder section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have some lines couchant on the front steps guarding the crown jewels. Today, we're going to look at a lovely little jewel of a poem, Sonnet 48. It's a sad, lovely little love poem that, while yes, is about jealousy, but it's also about when you really, 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 really adore someone, and you worry that, of course, the rest of the world must also see what a jewel of a lover that you have, and the fear that everyone will do anything they can to cozy up to him or to her in order to polish that diadem, if you will. So let's sparkle up our senses and get down to peering a little bit more closely at Sonnet 48. Sonnet 48. Let me read it for you first off, and then we'll have a little tete-a-tete about it. Sonnet 48. How careful was I, when I took my way, each trifle under truest bars to thrust, that to my use it might unused stay from hands of falsehood, in sure wards of trust. But thou, to whom my jewels trifles are, most worthy comfort, now my greatest grief, thou best of dearest, and mine only care, art left the prey of every vulgar thief. Thee have I not locked up in any chest, save where thou art not, though I feel thou art, within the gentle closure of my breast, from whence at pleasure thou mayst come and part. And even thence thou wilt be stolen, I fear, for truth proves thievish for a prize so dear. Well, it's pretty straightforward, but we'll talk about a few things a little bit more intensely. The first quatrain, how careful was I when I took my way, each trifle under truest bars to thrust. When you go away, of course, you want to lock up your jewels because you don't want anyone touching your jewels. That's all I'm saying. Each trifle under truest bars to thrust, that to my use it might unused stay from hands of falsehood in sure wards of trust. Looking closely at that first quatrain, if you look at the words that are used in lines 2 and line 4, trifle, truest bars to thrust, the wards of trust, you can almost hear the clinking and clanking and clunking of prison bars being closed, doors being closed, and bars being shut down. How careful was I when I took my way, each trifle under truest bars to thrust. Whenever I go away, I keep my most jeweled possessions under lock and key so that nobody else can get to them. And, you know, we'll get to who my most truest possessions are, but jewels under lock and key. That to my use it may unused stay from hands of falsehood in sure wards of trust. So again, those sure wards of trust, as if it's on a prison ward or if it's in a cell block, there's a little bit of, shall we call it, possessiveness here that seems, it's coming out a little bit strong. It's flattering, sure, but I'm not, it's a little bit like clinking, clanking, clunking, all the doors closing, all the locks locking on all the jewels in the narrator's possession. Second quatrain, but thou, there we go, but thou, to whom my jewels trifles are. And that to whom my jewels trifles are, to me, suggests two things. Either, compared to you, my jewels are nothing, or you play with my jewels as if they're nothing. It seems like it could be a double-edged sword or rosebud or whatever it is that is going on here, or a little diamond gem. But thou, to whom my jewels trifles are, most worthy comfort, now my greatest grief. I love ya, but you're making me nervous. Now my greatest grief, thou best of dearest and mine only care. So you're my biggest comfort when I think of our love, and my biggest grief when I think of how everybody else wants you too. And, well, I mean, let's face it, we do have a little bit of a history, if we look back at some of the other poems in the 40s, of you stepping out on me for a twirl or two with other dance partners, should we say. And then in line 7, thou best of dearest and mine only care, seems to be an admission of, well, yeah, okay, maybe I've stepped out too on you, but you, out of all those people that I've messed around with, you are my best of dearest, which is quite a nice phrase. Best of dearest and mine only care. And care meaning the thing that I am being most careful about and guarding the most, but also the dearest, because it's the Latin root of caras, like cara mia, my dear. So, most worthy comfort, now my greatest grief, thou best of dearest and mine only care, art left the prey of every vulgar thief. Anybody who walks past who sees you knows what a gem you are. Anybody can see it, and that's what I'm afraid of, that they'll steal you away from me. Thee have I not locked up in any chest. You know, even though I'm terrified someone's going to steal you away from me, I haven't locked you up. You can thank me at any time. I haven't locked you up. What a guy. You know, I haven't locked you up except, well, maybe I have locked you up, except, save where thou art not, though I feel thou art, within the gentle closure of my breast. Well, I haven't locked you up, but I have kept you deep in my heart, locked up, where you're free to come whenever you want, but sometimes you're there and sometimes you're not. My heart is open to you. You can arrive at any point, and stay, please, or go. I mean, you've shown that you can come and go as you wish. Save where thou art not, though I feel thou art within the gentle closure of my breast, from whence at pleasure thou mayst come and part. And even thence thou wilt be stolen, I fear, for truth proves thievish for a prize so dear. So anybody, even the most upright and pure person, who would never think of stealing you from me, will see you and think of stealing you from me. And who could blame them? Because, I mean, you really are exceptionally beautiful and loving and wonderful. And even though I'm slightly possessive, slightly, I hope that you'll stay with me. So this is actually quite a nice sentiment, but one does wonder if perhaps with all this possessiveness, with the locks and the bars and the thieves and the jails, one wonders if maybe if the narrator backed off just a little bit, there'd be a little less to worry about. I mean, as we say in the Midwest, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's going on in 48. It is a love poem. The narrator seems to be praising the beloved, saying, you are the best of my best jewels, even though I've, had my finger in a couple of other rings before, and worn a few other crowns and maybe had a pearl necklace here or there. Who knows? But you're my dearest of the dearest. And it is quite a nice love poem with an edge of a little bit possessiveness. Now, is there any indication of whether this is a male or a female? No, there is not. It could work in any way, shape, or form. Dramatically, where could it work in any of Shakespeare's plays? I would have to say maybe early in the play in Othello to Desdemona. Maybe not, but it's definitely, there's a hint of dangerous possessiveness there, but there's also a true sense of love and the recognition that the person maybe is someone who everybody else might want to be around in one way or another. Now, what if we think about this in terms of all the 47 poems that have come before? if we're looking at this as a narrative progression? Well, I do think that it stands on its own without the narrative progression, but since we're here, I am becoming partial to the idea of a series like the Decameron or the Canterbury Tales, where maybe there are a series of couples who are exchanging sonnets along the way, and this could be a different tone between two other sets of lovers as we go along. If we're thinking about it as only one narrator and only one love subject or object, as the case may be, all this backing and forthing seems to be wearing our poet down a little bit. And if I think about it, this is Sonnet 48, and our lovers seem to have been separated in one way or another since Sonnet 27, which is quite a long time. And one could look at this poem as a bit desperate, but you also can't ignore the fact that there really is, it really does sound like someone who is deeply, deeply, deeply in love with someone, even to the point of obsessiveness. And in fact, it's quite a lovely little poem too, because it's a bit more down to earth than some of the other sonnets that we've seen. Like, I mean, it's not like sonnet, you know, so is it not with me as with that painted muse, stirred by a painted beauty to his use, who heaven itself for ornament doth use, and every fair with fair doth rehearse, making a couplement of proud compare with sun and moon, with earth and sea's rich gems, with April's firstborn flowers, and all things rare that heaven's air in this huge rondure hems. It's nothing like that, but goodness gracious, that as amazing as that poem is, thank you, Sonnet 21. I mean, we're not dealing with the celestial. I mean, in 21, he's saying that I won't compare you to all these wonderful celestial things, even though he is comparing them throughout the course of the poem. But here, he's using the more earthly, even though the gems is a highfalutin kind of earthly, but they are just rocks after all. So I find it a bit more quiet. I find it a bit more down to earth. And I feel that there is a halting beauty in this poem too. And one thing that I found quite interesting about it was the plethora of S's followed by T's. If you look at, there's truest, bars, to, the S and the T, the trust, my, use, it, the S and with the T after it, unused, to, again, trust, jewels, trifles, the S on the jewels and the T on the trifles, most, greatest, all these superlative endings, best, dearest, and then chest and breast and stolen, ST, and proves, thievish at the end. And there's that gliding S sound that comes up against the hard stop of the T, and I can't quite figure out what the total effect of this is, but there are a lot of the other soft S sounds and the Fs and the Zs. So there's this soothing, soft, sedate quality that lends a sense of sadness and almost resignation of the awareness that a lover's love is never fully guaranteed. There's that smoothness followed by the hard stop. And as if someone is butting their head up against a wall and realizing that perhaps all isn't guaranteed to be well in lover's lane. So that's my impression. What say you? How do you feel that this might fit into a running narrative thus far? Or are you violently opposed to the idea that there is a running narrative at all in any of these? Do you think I'm full of baloney? Well, in fact, I am full of baloney, but it's the vegetarian garlic bologna on sale at Zabar's now. Ponder that as you will. Leave your comments in the comment section. And until we meet again, remember that the world is full of wonder. Please pay attention. I'm Tootight Lautrec. Mwah.